Hi there gamers, this is PlanetRobbo's top 10 video games of all time for TDP GamesRoom. At number 10, it's Moonstone. This was an early RPG game which basically featured character stats, hit points, stamina and strength and all those things that now you take for granted in RPGs that just didn't exist at the time. You could buy items to improve your character, you could buy and cast spells and gain an advantage over your opponent. Although you played with 4 knights in the game, you could play single player and the other 3 knights be played by the computer, or you could play a full 4-player multiplayer game, and you could actually fight against your mates in order to basically eliminate them from the game, so that you could collect all of the Moonstones and then head to the centre of the map and defeat the dragon. At number 9, it's Counterstrike. To me this is a revolutionary first-person shooter. It was built on the Half-Life engine, I believe. Graphics these days are pretty basic, but that means you don't need a great PC to run it, which to me is what makes it such a great game, especially for multiplayer LAN parties and the like. The gameplay is simple. You choose a side, you can be the terrorists or the feds. If you're a terrorist, then you've either got to plant the bomb or basically keep hold of the hostages. If you're one of the feds, then you've got to rescue the hostages, or you've got to stop the terrorists from planting the bomb. It's obviously a multiplayer game. You work together in teams to eliminate your opponent, or to basically stop them, as I said, from planting the bomb, or make sure the hostages come to no harm, or if you're the terrorists then keep hold of the hostages. At number 8, it's a game that probably a lot of people won't have heard of. It's a game called Hunter. This was on the Amiga back in 1991. It's basically an adventure puzzler with a free reign element. It was fun anyway, just to wander around, discover new modes of transport in the game, which basically range from riding a bicycle to actually flying a helicopter, and actually discovering an elusive hovercraft which existed in some of the maps on the game. There were several maps in the game, and the gameplay basically consisted of completing a James Bond-esque mission by travelling to particular locations that were pointed out to you, picking up items and then basically completing the quests. As I said, there were several modes of transport in the game. As you can see there's a bike and also a speedboat, and you can basically get in those and drive them around. All of the things like the speedboat had fuel, so you had to get extra fuel. At number 7, I'd put Gran Turismo. Although the video you've seen is obviously one of the later versions on the PS3, I played this game quite extensively on the PS1, and again the thing I really liked about it is that they'd combined the free reign element of gaming into the kind of racer genre. You know, so you could basically pick up the game, you could purchase new cars, you enter your races to gain credits, and then you can choose to either enhance the car that you've got to spec it up to the max, or you basically buy more cars. The game spanned all over the 3 PlayStations that have been released, and every single release they've done has been at the cutting edge of graphics and physics. The cars are actually modelled on manufacturers' specs, and even on the PlayStation 1 the sounds were sampled from the actual vehicles. The game also includes an arcade mode, which basically allowed you to jump straight into the game, which meant you could race against your mates, so you didn't have to worry about the kind of long-winded gameplay, if you like, of doing the races and getting the credits to buy the cars and speccing it up. Just jump right in and play. At number 6, massive RPG blockbuster set of games here for me. The Diablo series set the bar for RPGs. It's one of the first games really to bring the Dungeons and Dragons RPG from the textbooks into the video game environment. You choose your class and your race, buy some gear, and you battle your way through levels and levels of catacombs, slaying evil beasts and living dead skeletons as you go. You collect your items and your gold, and you return to the village and you buy new, better equipment to enhance your character. Basically, as you kill the baddies, you gain experience and also levels to your character, which basically improve your character statistics. Even the first Diablo also allowed a multiplayer element, so you could basically create a party and you basically had endless hours of fun slaying monsters while you completed the quests and gained even more experience with doing those as well. Later Diablo 2 and Diablo 3 expanded on the original game immensely, offering things like 3D enhanced graphic support, socketed weapons, and basically a whole new set of classes to do battle with. At number 5, it's the Simcity series. Revolutionary god games. Although the original sort of looks pretty shocking now, I actually played it on the ZX Spectrum, and you can't believe how addictive it actually was in those days. Yeah, okay, you look at it on YouTube now, the graphics look pretty rubbish, but believe me, the whole concept of the game and how much it kind of dragged you in just made it amazingly in depth and extremely addictive. So you basically build up your city from scratch, or you can complete one of the game's missions, which is something they've introduced in the later games. You have to carefully choose the balance of industrial, commercial and residential, so that your city can basically thrive. You gain population, then you can choose to rip off all your residents by increasing the tax, and they all leave. You lower the taxes again, and then they all come flooding back. And then if you're really sadistic, you might choose to introduce a natural disaster, which can basically range from Godzilla turning up in your city to a volcano, right through to an alien invasion, and you can basically sit there and watch your plebs suffer in your city. At number 4, it's the Doom series of games. For me, Doom and its predecessor Castle Wolfenstein paved the way for the first-person shooters that we all know and love today. Without Doom, there would not have been games like Call of Duty and Battlefield 3. The graphics were pretty basic at the time, but it was the multiplayer fragfest element of the game that made it so enjoyable. I remember my dad getting hold of 386, 486 PCs from work. We managed to network them together using IPX over BNC. Basically had a fragfest at home, my brother and my mate Armageddon Man. As ID Software made their Doom games engines extremely customisable, basically you got people who started creating their own multiplayer maps, new weapons and new monsters. The game also featured a single player campaign where you had to find keys to open doors and eventually the exit, basically blast monsters as you went. After a significant gap in the Doom series, ID Software released Doom 3 in 2004. I'll see you online and I will slap you with my BFG. And if you're a gamer and you don't know what that stands for, then I suggest you look it up on Google. Graphics in Doom 3 were brought right up to date with real-time dynamic rendered lighting and shadowing. In May 2008, Doom 4 was announced, and it's based on ID Software's Tech 5 engine. Doom is one of the few video games to have had a film made after it. Probably the less said about that, the better though. At number 3, it's the Quake series, another release by ID Software. Quake 1 saw the first real use of 3D graphics in a first-person shooter. Sounds revolutionary now, but you could actually look up and down, which is something that you could only do to a limited degree in the original Doom engines that had been created previously. Single player and multiplayer gameplay were both significantly updated too, with a new medieval style of maps in Quake 1, new weapons and a whole set of evil new baddies. Released later, Quake 2 moved to a more sci-fi based theme, again introducing new weapons such as the railgun, which was basically a sniper's bliss, picking your mates off with a single shot. As with Doom, ID have sold on the game engines for all 4 Quake releases. These have been used for many other great first-person shooters such as Call of Duty, Medal of Honor, Modern Warfare 3. There are also many map construction kits out there to download for free, and you can produce your own maps. Basically, I even made a map of the office I worked in once, as well as being able to customise any aspect of the game, in addition to building the maps. I remember a version of Quake that you could download, Quake 2 I think it was, which was basically Quake Paintball, which was excellent. At number 2, it's Rockband. Get your buddies together, or your family, drink some beer and rock out in a band. Doesn't get much better. Amazingly fun and ingenious multiplayer action, Rockband 3 now boasts the ability to have 3 singers, a drummer, a keyboard player, a bassist and a lead guitarist. The new Pro mode even allows you, the guitarist, to play on an imitation of a real guitar. There have been several spin-off games through the series. For example, they produced a Beatles version. Trust me, after a few shots, everyone in the room is going to be singing Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds and rocking out. Songs available with the game are absolutely massive. They've also added a massive catalogue of downloadable content now, which basically spans every decade of rock music. This is the great thing about this game for me, is that it truly brings people together, and basically people of all ages, so anybody can play it, and it can be enjoyed by children from as young as sort of 7 years old right up to like your granny who's 80. My number 1 game of all time had to be Elite. For me, quite simply, the most involving single-player game I've ever played in my life. There is only one game that I would ever give the number 1 spot to, and this is it. The original Elite basically was the first ever game to have true 3D graphics and a truly massive universe to explore, which you could literally explore. This game saw a change in the way we play games, allowing you to basically do whatever you want and be whoever you want. It paved the way for games like World of Warcraft and Grand Theft Auto, in my opinion, as well as many more. I remember playing Frontier Elite 2, which is basically featured in this video clip, for months and months on my Commodore Amiga. I remember the game coming with a poster of the galaxy with a star map that you'd use to navigate your way around the game. You could basically fly from Earth to Saturn, or you could, within our solar system, you could land on Earth, then you could fly to Mars and land on Mars. You could fly to other stars in the galaxy and then land on other planets or dock at space stations around those planets. The game in those days on the Commodore Amiga came on basically on 2 low density floppy disks, which each had a capacity of 880k, which meant that the whole game, Frontier Elite 2, was only 1.7 megabytes. So think about that in terms of these days. Frontier is available on the PC basically now. You can download it for free, and there's also a direct 3D port which is available, I believe. I'd actually recommend anybody to play it, just for nostalgia really, if nothing else. Some really great news last month. On the 6th of November 2012, Frontier announced that they're going to be releasing a new Elite sequel called Elite Dangerous. And here's basically the list of the runners-up. I actually ended up with the top 30 when I went through the games, but here are the remaining games in the top 20. Thanks for watching the video, and I look forward to any comments that you might have. All the best, PlanetRobbo.